Hello everyone, as with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today, wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. And I gotta start with this from Paul Barron. If you think you missed the boat on crypto, look at the data. Internet users in 2000, 360 million, 6% of the world. Crypto users in 2025, 580 million, 7% of the world. We are mathematically at the year 2000 of the internet. This is the post-bubble phase. The 2022 crash was our dot-com bust. The tourists have left. The scams are dying, and the Amazon of this era is currently being built in silence. We aren't early, we are on time. You already see the shift happening. I've been pointing it out in video after video. Look at the momentum behind Ripple right now. Daily announcements coming from Ripple now. Same thing with Hedera. Same thing with Stellar now. They're starting to get things going as well. XDC, QNT. That everything is coming together quickly. It's like the final pieces have to be put in place. But the one thing that we're still waiting on is this. Michael Selig says that the Congress is very close to passing crypto market structure legislation. We are at a pivotal moment in the evolution of American financial markets. Advances in technology are enabling the creation of entirely new products, platforms, and business models, in turning transforming the financial services landscape as we know it. And thanks to President Donald Trump's leadership, Congress is now on the cusp of enacting the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act, which would provide long overdue regulatory clarity to an American industry that embodies the promise of the future. They're already telling you we are at that point where the new financial system is almost ready to go live. Right now, we're watching the transformation happen from the traditional financial system into the new financial system. But we're still lacking regulations. Regulations are going to kill off 99% of crypto. And all that liquidity that's sitting in meme coins and coins that absolutely do nothing, it's going to have to shift somewhere. It's going to end up into these blue chips like XRP, XLM, and so on. And everybody asks me, why are you so against this bill? Well, this is why. Tokenized stocks banned. No blockchain stocks in the United States. DeFi regulated like banks. Kills privacy and decentralization. SEC takes more power, more control, less innovation. Stablecoin yield banned. No interest on stablecoins. And that comes from John Connors. But that's why Brian Armstrong is against it. And that's why we have to get this right. I'm telling you now, Brad just wants some sort of bill that comes out, some sort of clarity. And then, oh, we could fix it later. You are not getting these politicians back to the table to fix these issues later. And you got to get it in the bill before it even gets passed. That's my opinion on it. And I think it's creating a lot of confusion in the crypto space as well, because in the XRP community, everybody's battling back and forth. Like, here's John Dean. He agrees with Brad Garlinghouse. Take a listen.
You know, when I look at the bill, I think I agree with Brad Garlinghouse. Let's not let perfection get in the way of good, because once you leave the table in these midterm elections, and there could be a macro event, it could be with Iran, everyone's attention turns to that. The Democrats take control, and Elizabeth Warren becomes the chairwoman of the banking committee, which she would be. We're just going to go back if the SEC has all the control and we're arguing over tokenized securities. And so time is of the essence. And I think that if they're not talking about marking that up in the next few weeks, I'm going to go from cautiously optimistic to it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
I think if it doesn't get done before the midterms, there's a good chance this is getting kicked way down the road. And I get it. We want this so that we could watch XRP start to be utilized all around the United States and other cryptocurrencies as well. And I'm sure it would definitely pump our bags. But that's only if the market sees it as a positive. And here's Grayscale. They're backing Coinbase. Take a listen.
How would you answer that?
Look, I think I would agree with Coinbase's Brian Armstrong. A no bill is better than a bad bill. So we can't go backwards on the gains that we made last year on stable coins. We don't want to go backwards. We want to go forward. And so if that means taking a step back and picking up this legislation under the next Congress, then potentially that's a good outcome rather than just rush something through that'll set us back from where we were last year.
And that's what it would do. It would give us another setback. And I agree with Brian Armstrong on this. And I'm not even a fan of Brian Armstrong or Coinbase. But take a listen to what he says right here.
Yeah. So the number one is really around payment of rewards on stablecoins. I think Americans should be able to earn more money on their money. Banks should have to compete on a level playing field. And if the American people feel like the banks are not paying high enough interest rates and stablecoin rewards can offer them more, then maybe the banks should have to pay higher interest rates to compete, right? I don't think there should be any protectionism.
Do you think that was put in directly for the banks, that was lobbied by the banks and put in?
Yeah.
And I agree. There should not be no protectionism for the banks. And that's what's going on. They want those amendments to happen inside this bill so people don't take their money from their checking and savings account and park it into a stable coin. Because if people could do that, they could just stay invested in that stable coin and continue to earn yield year over year. It puts people on the path to financial freedom. Because even what they're earning off of those stable coins, they could just reinvest it into more stable coins. In other words, you have some RLUSD and you're getting X amount of yield. Well, if I hold USDC, I might get a different amount of yield and so on. So you just spread your money out over a bunch of stable coins and just get instant money every single month just by holding those stable coins. And the banks are trying to stop it because they don't want to give you anything. That's the way I look at it. And this comes from Monica Long. After one of crypto's most exciting years and ripples, the industry is entering its production era. In 2026, we'll see the institutionalization of crypto. Trusted infrastructure and real utility will push banks, corporates, and providers from pilots to scale across stablecoins, on-chain assets, crypto custody, and broader institutional investment. A true inflection point for institutional adoption and the Internet of Value. With that, here are some of my top predictions for 2026. So she's predicting institutional adoption this year. And this could also be the year where the banks come out of the testing phase and actually start utilizing those Ripple rails. She goes on to say, stablecoins will be the foundation of global settlement, not an alternative rail, as Visa, Stripe, and major institutions hardwire them into payment flows. B2B is the growth engine, with corporates using digital dollars to unlock real-time liquidity and capital efficiency. Crypto is no longer speculative. It's becoming the operation layer of modern finance. By 2026, 50% of Fortune 500 companies will have crypto exposure or formalized DAT strategies, actively holding tokenized assets, on-chain T-bills, stablecoins, and programmable financial instruments. Institutional access is also expanding through capital markets. Crypto M&A reflects market maturity with $8.6 billion in deal volume in 2025. They're expecting that to grow as well. But we're also at that point where we get mass institutional adoption, which leads us to mass adoption in as a whole. I'm talking about where you're seeing these big box stores directly accepting crypto as a form of payment. That's the end game. And we're not quite there yet. We're still at this phase. Walmart's crypto move sparks XRP price surge. This is not causing the price of XRP to surge in any way. And they go on to talk about how OnePay is accelerating adoption. I will give them that. I do think OnePay is one step of the process. But you're still going from crypto to fiat to the merchant. You got to get to the point where we're going directly from crypto to the merchant in crypto. And I think that will come with institutional adoption. I don't think we will get that until we get past institutional adoption and we start mass adoption worldwide. But most people are going to be using blockchain and crypto, and they're not even going to know that it's happening. And they even cite retail adoption as a value driver. And I would agree with that. I think a lot of retail wants to accept crypto, retailers like Walmart, like eBay, and so on. But they're also at a time where we're lacking regulations at the same time. So without regulations, it's going to be hard for them to go all in. But then you have retail who shops at these stores wanting to use crypto as a form of payment, and that's going to drive the merchants to accept it. That's the way I look at it. But me personally, I would not be buying anything at Walmart with my XRP. The solution lies in central banks channeling stablecoin momentum, not fighting it. Matthew Osborne, our policy director for UK and Europe, shares his latest with OMFIF on why integrating stablecoins into the regulated financial safety net is key to global stability and innovation. This comes from Ripple. So what they're talking about is central banks embracing stable coins. And I think that's a better path than having a central bank digital currency. Because a central bank digital currency, it's a control system. They could claw back that money if you're buying things they don't want you to buy with it. They could also limit how much you can spend per day. It's going to come with rules and regulations, and it keeps the central banks in power at the same time. However, if these central banks decided to go down the road of a stable coin instead, I think it would gain a lot more momentum. I think people would be more willing to use it. So you wouldn't have to fight to get people to adopt it like you would a CBDC. But it's going to be a tough sell for the Bank of England and the ECB and the Fed. Even here in the US, the Fed has not done away with CBDC yet. It's just that I think they kicked the can down the road in the United States. Trump said we're going to have a stable coin as the digital dollar. But 2029, the next president might say we're going full steam ahead with a central bank digital currency. It depends on what happens from here. If we could get a digital dollar and start to get it integrated with the financial system, it's going to be hard to get it back out. In other words, that would lock us in with a stable coin, because I remember that guy from the World Economic Forum saying once a CBDC launches, that Hugo Navari guy, he says, once it launches, it embeds itself in the system and you can never remove it fully. And I remember talking about that in like 2022. So if the US could roll out a digital dollar stablecoin ahead of the next election, it would already be embedded into the financial system. In other words, they could never do away with it. The granddaughter discovered the $400,000 in cash was missing from the safe, along with Ledger Wallet, which contained approximately 5,534,307 units of the digital currency XRP. Based on the affidavit, George Jones' widow countersued a $1 million crypto case. So remember, this took her boyfriend ran off with all this XRP and cash. Well, now he's suing and saying that he's entitled to that XRP and cash. But you see, there's people out there that actually understand what XRP is. And since each token is now valued around $2.10, they're saying this was an $11,622,044.70 worth of XRP at the time. I want to see where this goes from here. But XRP, this is one of the only times you really see XRP mentioned in these type of articles. Even with illicit activity, it's usually USDT or Bitcoin. XRP very rarely shows up when they're talking about illicit activity. But this case is a lot different. And I'm surprised that XRP was even on that wallet. But I guess some people know what they hold when they hold XRP. And like I always tell you, a run-up is absolutely coming. You just got to be here when that run-up begins. And until it happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.